Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to the MedTech Marketing Community live panel. We have a very exciting panel today, the CEO executive panel. But before we start, I want to do a welcome in Hebrew. We are in Israel and we are hosted in a beautiful studio by Veo. אז אני רוצה רגע להגיד תודה קודם כל לרודריגו, שזה כבר השיתוף פעולה השלישי שלנו איתו, ומפעם לפעם הוא עושה את זה יותר ויותר מדהים. אז רודריגו, הבמה שלך.
אז קודם כל תודה שאת מגיעה ואנחנו ממשיכים לעשות את האירועים הווירטואליים הללו, שזה באמת חוויה וכיף. בגדול, כפי שחלק מהצופים שלנו מכירים ואת מכירה, אני ארחיב קצת בשביל האנשים שלא מכירים. ואו היא סוכנות תוכן, שהפנטזיה שלנו היא בסופו של דבר לגרום לכל מותג לשדר, שהוא יוכל לייצר תוכן מקורי, לשדר את עצמו לעולם, וחלק מהדברים שהתחדשנו בהם היא באמת הקמנו כאן אולפן שמאפשר לכל מותג היום לבוא ולשדר לאיפה שהוא רוצה, באיזה סקייל שבא לו, וזהו. ואני סופר שמח וסופר מתרגש בשבילך, אולגה, כי יש באמת פאנל מאוד מקסים. אני פגשתי את כולם, אז יהיה לכם כיף. וזהו, אז שיהיה באמת המון בהצלחה, תהני, תעביר את זה בכיף, והמצגת אלייך עכשיו.
תודה רבה, רודריגו. So back to English. In a moment, I will introduce the panel. They will also introduce themselves, but just for a second, to give you a glimpse about myself and the MedTech marketing community. So I'm a marketing expert. I specialize in the MedTech industry, work with a variety of MedTech companies, startups, corporations, companies that VCs are investing in them. And my passion is to create scale by effective marketing. I'm passionate about marketing. I believe in the power of marketing as a tool that can generate growth. And with that in mind, a year ago, I actually founded a whole community. It's called MedTech Marketing Community. We are growing. Now we have already 450 members, but here you can see a picture from a year ago. It was in Zebra Medical. Maybe some of you remember it. So we launched it. We have different events that we are organizing, educational panels. We have also a dedicated workshop that we are running once in a quarter, where we walk the companies through all the steps of go-to-market with leading product and marketing experts. Our upcoming workshop is starting next week. We have a few spots available, so anyone interested would be more than happy to have you with us. All the events will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. You have the details here, so you're welcome to follow, and you're welcome to join the MedTech marketing community on LinkedIn. And today I'm really excited to have a very special panel. As we ask our community members, what is the most interesting thing? What is the thing that you would like to learn about? So the number one point that came through was the go-to-market approach. How do we take our technology? How do we take our product to market? Because many companies, they have really impressive technology, but when they come to market it, they start meeting different challenges. And I believe that there is no better way to learn about it, but from the people who actually did it, who did it in their companies, who are leading VCs that see a portfolio of companies and have a global vision of it. And that's why I think that today we have a perfect panel of experts who can truly share about the challenges and the opportunities in go-to-market. And I'm really excited to introduce them today. So first of all, Dr. Irit Yaniv. While looking for a panelist, I always look for a person who can bring a unique perspective. And the thing with Irit, that Irit brings not just one perspective, but three perspectives. First of all, she is an MD. Secondly, she is also an industry executive with a record of leadership roles. And she is heading a VC and can really share the VC perspective. So Irit, excited to have you with us.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you, even on this kind of a panel, and my colleagues here that I know for many years. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Dr. Irit Yaniv, as you mentioned. I'm heading Almeda Ventures. Almeda is a special VC because we are public. We are actually the first healthcare public partnership. We are traded in Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and we invest in medical device, digital health, and bioconversion. Happy to be here and happy to see that finally we have professional marketing team in Israel, something that we were missing for many years.
Thank you very much, Irit. And our next panelist, I'm truly excited to present her. So I'm always watching MedTech companies. I'm tracking on LinkedIn what's new. And suddenly, recently, I started seeing Ocon everywhere. Ocon is on Forbes. Keren Leshem is speaking on that forum. And I said, I must bring Keren as a panelist and learn how is she doing it. So Keren, nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited to share some of my experience, most of it complain about my experience. So Ocon is an Israeli company. We're not the usual startup company because we've been around for about 10 years. But we deliver drugs to the uterus. Our first product is already commercialized in 30 markets around the world, with a lot of experience in working with distributors and directly working with our own teams across the world. We also have other products for different indications in the uterus, and we look forward to bringing them to the market as well.
Exciting. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
The next person, I'm also very excited to introduce Leon. Leon is my customer at Mobile ODT, so we work for a while together. And I have to share that actually Leon was the inspiration behind this event, because when I started to work with Mobile ODT, I discovered the whole story behind this company, that it actually went bankrupt, and Leon was brought to the company just weeks before it went bankrupt, and then you came with the strategy how to rejuvenate the company, raised 4 million, and now you're on the road to raise 20 million.
Yeah, hopefully.
So Leon, how?
No, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be on this panel. As you said, I joined Mobile ODT in less than a year ago. Mobile ODT is a very interesting company because we're in the world of cervical cancer. We've introduced artificial intelligence into our world and into the world of screening cancer. And over 300,000 women die of cervical cancer a year. So this is the fourth most common cancer for women around the world. So we hope to make an impact in this world of cervical cancer and awareness to cervical cancer.
Perfect. So looking forward to hearing your insights. And now, as we move on to the live part of our panel. So actually we have got ahead of this event 80 questions from registrants worldwide. We have registrants from all around the world, which is truly inspiring. We have registrants, of course, from Israel, from Spain, from UK, from Taiwan, from US. I don't know if they joined us, but yet they registered, and the number of questions received is truly amazing. So what I have done, I have organized them by topics, and we'll be addressing all these questions. Actually, this panel is built on the questions that you have submitted. So it's straight according to your needs. We are going to discuss market access. Then we are going to speak about the role of VC and fundraising. And last but not least, we'll speak how to learn from challenges and from failures, because this is how you learn in your go-to-market approach. So a first question to Keren. How do you know how to position a product or technology in the market?
That's a very good question. From my experience, I think that you really need to understand your product. You need to know what it does do and what it doesn't do, where its strengths are and where its weaknesses are, first and foremost. Many times we have the ability to say our product is the best because, but we have to understand how to sell it, who can sell it, what you need to bring behind the product. Is it more marketing? Is it more technical? Is it more training? And that way you can really bring it to the right partner in the right market, and also do a good job promoting it to the specific physicians or the specific stakeholders that would want to acquire or buy it.
And you did quite a job with that in Ocon. I think you repositioned the product completely.
We did. We actually did something very interesting. We changed the strategy to actually go to our competitors, to distributors that sell competitive products, because we knew that the product has a specific ability to shine above the competition for various reasons, mainly safety reasons. And in doing so, we were able to really get a big chunk of sales in various markets. And so that's something we did a bit different from the usual suspects of big pharmaceutical companies that loved our product but weren't able to do a very good job with it.
It takes courage, to go to competition.
Yes.
And what would you say is the best way to do market validation? You know, how do you know if it's a good market to approach, if it's
I think market validation is super crucial to be successful. Mm-hmm. And what we did is we took one smaller market that we could later fix if needed, and did a full-scale sales. Thankfully, we understood that the product needed a little tweaking, mm-hmm. and we went back with a different product, but we did that all in Austria, for example.
Oh,
and so we took the product to Austria. Mm-hmm. We had a local distributor there, and we learned together the pros and the cons, and what fits and what doesn't, and where to take the biggest chunk of this market. And so I really recommend doing validation of the product in a smaller market. Take your time. I know it's hard with investors, but take your time and do your validation, and then go and expand into bigger territories. I call it the onion approach. Do it small and then grow bigger and bigger.
I think learn something similar also.
Actually, Keren is spot on, because we did the same thing. We took our product and we went to the Dominican Republic, which is, you know, if you fail in that market, exactly, no one's going to hear about it. But you learn a lot from just entering into smaller markets. Less developed markets is the way you want to start your first approach to the market.
And you know, speaking about Dominican,
if I can stop you for 1 second, and I'm putting my VC hat. One of the concerns that we may have in this kind of approach is that once you do it in the Dominican Republic, for example, does it really create some knowledge on the US market or the European market? I mean, how do you translate the finding that you find in one market to another market?
it's very difficult to translate from market to market because every market is different. The patient flow is very different. What we looked at was actually looking how our product acted in the market, how it sat with the patient flow. You cannot take what we did in the Dominican Republic and copy and paste it to the United States. It was more of a test, but if you fail there, it's an easier failure than failing in Germany,
Yeah,
for example.
I'd like to also add to what Leon is saying is that it's not only a market validation of the product, but also how well the company can package and sell and regulate and have its training to the distributor. So it's really almost a real life test of any market in order to see, do all the organization heads click together, from regulatory to the operations, to the manufacturing, to the packaging, to the shipments, to the logistics, and then of course to the marketing, to the sales. And it gives kind of a startup to a product, which then that you can translate and grow bigger.
Good point. And speaking of markets, we mentioned Austria, we mentioned Dominican Republic, but then there's the question within the market, where do you go? Do you go to the public sector, or do you go to private customers? I think, Leon, you have some experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So first of all, it depends. It depends. It depends how in which setting you're going to. If you're going to a low resource setting, if you're going to a developing country, there's no private sector anyway. So you have to go to the public the market. But you cannot go into the bigger markets, the more advanced markets. You have to go into both. It's easier and quicker to get into the private sector. The threshold is the bar to get in is slightly lower. The people that are in the private sector are more open to adopting new technologies. They're more open to change. When you go to the public sector, these are very heavy organizations. The change is much more difficult in those organizations.
And also the pricing might be problematic as well.
Right. Again, the pricing is problematic as well. Yeah.
And
Just to add, just to close a deal in the public sector is much longer. It's a much longer process to close a deal.
And also, not every public sector is the same. We had a question about NHS and about US.
Yeah. When you compare the NHS to the US, you have to first look at the budgets. The US spends about 15 or 16% of its GDP on healthcare. And when you look at the NHS, they're probably spending at least half of that. And budget actually dictates how new technologies get into the system. And because when you bring a new technology into the system, it demands there is a certain level of change that has to occur when you put a new technology into the system. So the public system, the public system in the United States has a different DNA to the NHS. The NHS is really not open to change, especially not in digital health, as we are involved in digital health. When you look at the public sector in the United States, they're very open to change. They're looking for that extra clinical advantage, and they're also looking for the cost saving. So if I were to choose, I would never choose the NHS or the UK as a first market to introduce new and novel technology.
Would you agree?
They have the experience. I'm just putting the money, but I do agree that those two markets are really challenging, I would say. You need to have a lot of experience and knowledge before you're approaching the market. They are large enough so you cannot afford to fail. And by stating that, you really need to do those kind of validation tests that my colleagues just described, or some testing the water in another market in order to come ready to those markets. I think that I don't want to see a company that approaching US or UK or even Germany without some experience before. I think this is too risky.
I completely agree. I wouldn't go to the UK as a first market. The UK has advantages due to size. So having a deal within the NHS would allow many units to be sold. But like we said on pricing, it would have an effect on the pricing as well.
Mm-hmm. And you know, speaking from the perspective, you know, MedTech is a big thing, but within there is digital health, and there is AI, and there are the devices itself. Irit, you have the perspective, you know, you see many companies. Do you see any shift now in the portfolio of the companies that are coming, you know, because we are moving to more software-oriented world? Do you see any shift and any difference?
Yeah, we see many more software-based company, AI, machine learning solution. It's much more easy to develop. So we used to say 2 persons sit in a coffee house, and then after 1 hour they have a startup, because they already thought about the problems and a solution to that problem. So we see much more. However, we do not invest much more in those companies. And our challenge is really to pick up the good ones, those that have high likelihood to succeed. And the parameters for that are not yet set. So we are kind of learning the field as well. We are learning who is going to be successful, what are the spices that such a startup needs in order to be successful. And we invest cautiously. We see more, and we still not invest as many as we want, just because of our concern.
You know, to add to what Irit is saying, I can tell you that being a drug delivery company or a drug device combination company, we're very much looking at AI to add to our products because we understand that this is where the world is going. And so while there may be products that are AI-based or products that are drug-based, I think that we'll see a lot of these technologies and areas merge.
Us being in AI, there are a lot of challenges of AI, and what the jury is still out on is the adoption rate, because AI is it's a whole new world for the medical world. Number one, and number two is the adoption rate is still not there. There's a lot of burden to prove that your AI is not just a black box. And until you haven't proven that your AI is not a black box, it's going to be an uphill battle to get AI as a fully adopted technology into the world.
And you touched the right point, and that's the challenge that I was trying to describe. We know that it's going to be there.
Yeah.
We still don't know how many bumps we have along the way, and this is why we are, as an investor, sometimes wait and see. In order to get the feeling, in order to get who is going to be a good driver, in order to pass all these bumps and reach the point. But I think that slowly we learn more, and hopefully in the next couple of years we will see many successful that we can learn from their experience how to make it better and quicker.
And just to add on to that point, because we are in the world of AI, you will see the developing markets will adopt to AI very, very quickly, because the threshold of proof of burden is not there.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the high-end markets, the United States, the European markets, the threshold to prove that your technology actually gives the sensitivity and specificity that it should give is needed to be proven. So AI will make a big impact on developing countries and low resource settings.
I tend to agree.
I finally can agree with you on something.
And you know, speaking of countries and markets, and you have been in several markets, the field, you know that it's a different way to market AI than a MedTech technology. Even when you go to distributors, how do you choose a strategic distributor, and then you explain that you have the AI technology?
So, choosing a distributor is an art.
It's an art.
It's an absolute art, and you need a lot of experience choosing a distributor, because when you choose the wrong distributor, this is going to cost you at least an average of 9 months.
I wanted to say 2 years. I wanted to say 2 years. Registration, packaging, IFUs.
One of the things that I learned is never do registration under the distributor's name.
No, I know, but even
you
so,
own your own registration, because you change distributors, and so they don't have their hold on the registration. But there is a basic checklist that, someone who's starting out now looking for distributors, there's a basic checklist. And the first thing I would look for is if your distributor can pick up a phone to 2 to 3 KOLs immediately. Because that means he's been involved in that market. He knows the market you're in. If he doesn't have a KOL, 2 or 3 KOLs on speed dial, you got to look at it. And then also you got to look at the compatibility of your company and the distributor. What are they selling? First of all, if they're selling competitive product, it's definitely a no. I know you.
I disagree.
You went to
disagree.
But you got to look at the compatibility, because if they're selling high-end technology and you have a very inexpensive technology, the sales reps are not going to push it because they're commission-based. So you got to look at a lot of different things, and I would really do it very, very slowly. I'd really do a lot of due diligence, because making that decision on a distributor is a strategic decision of the company.
I completely agree, and I want to add to what Leon is saying. I think that we tend to make a mistake when we see a distributor that's very excited about our products, right? So they come and they say, wow, we love your product, we can sell it, we can do great, and that gets us excited and kind of deviates us from how well he can do his job. And in addition to the due diligence, I would really recommend understanding the market and who the stakeholders are, and if the distributor is set up for your own product. As we said before, know your product, and if your product needs, for example, a lot of training, and your distributor is a pharmaceutical company, they're not set up to do such training.
True.
Or if your product needs a lot of marketing, and your distributor is a device company that doesn't know how to do marketing, maybe that's and so you
true.
really have to, on one hand, understand your product, and on the other hand, understand how the distributor is set up. I worked, before coming to Ocon, in a commercial organization in Europe, and we did sales, but we were a pharmaceutical company. When I came to Ocon and saw we have pharmaceutical companies selling our product, I immediately knew that the DNA of a pharmaceutical company cannot sell a medical device that requires training, requires PMS, which is a post-market surveillance, and so that's why we did the switch. In addition, we went to our competitors because we knew that we were a product that could bring value to a company or organization that knows the KOLs and knows how to sell these uterine devices or IUDs. Now having an additional product to their portfolio would add a lot more space to this industry.
And having said that, there are probably people out there looking at it who've got new product, new novel technology they want to put into the market, and that needs missionary sales. And not every distributor is built for missionary sales, because missionary sales takes a long time. So I see sometimes the bigger companies have deeper pockets, and they look at a long-term value proposition, and they're more suited to missionary sales. So that is an important point.
And actually, that's the next question, that we had. How can a product, a new technology that wants to introduce themselves in the market without the deep pockets of the corporations, how can they become a standard of care? Is it like maybe Irit, you can comment first. Is it mission impossible, or?
I don't think anything is mission impossible. I think if you know what you are doing, and with a good marketing and scientific evidence, you can make it happen. It is not easy. I wouldn't say that it requires deep pockets. It does require money. It requires wisdom how to do it. But I did see some products that from a startup, they became a standard of care. But in order to fill this gap, I think we need people that are sitting, people like those that are sitting next to me, and I'm sure they can teach you better than me how to make it happen. I just have, to believe that they can make it happen.
I think that, thank you for that, Irit. I think that being small and agile and a little bit more perhaps with chutzpah that we have allows us to be very creative with how we do marketing. For example, when we look at Okan's products, there are the regular channels through the doctors and through the hospitals, but there are also back channels through social media.
Right, and they're very good at it.
Very good, and you have a woman that's a blogger that has 100,000 followers, and she talks about your product. I inserted our product, which got a lot of attention as well, and you see how that also helps with marketing efforts. And so we have to be very agile for change. I think that scientific data is crucial, and this is something we need to work on as companies because these things cost money and take time, but those are crucial to really make your product more pliable and available in the market.
And also on the clinical side, I think marketing is, as a marketing person, I'm sure, marketing is very, but
I must say my first experience in sales and marketing, and now I can I can say that Leon and me were at the same company. Is that I'm coming from a clinical background. I'm a doctor. I'm a medical doctor. And working at that company at the first time when we started sale, I think that the best sales that we did were when a sales and marketing guy worked together with the clinical medical.
This is so true.
So the pitch was kind of perfect. We gave the pitch on the clinical clinical and medical. And then the sales and marketing came in order to close the deal. And those were the deals, and the deals that were successful. And this is why I said at the beginning, you need the scientific part and you need the marketing part.
You need to be able to market something.
Exactly. To market the truth.
Exactly.
Market the proof, exactly. To market the proof.
Yeah. And the last question, a live question that we received now, just to wrap up this part. What can you say about the Israel market? Is it a market that you would recommend assessing?
First of all, the Israeli market is a really small market. It's probably very similar to the US market, but it's so tiny. It's a tiny market. There's no MedTech company in Israel that develops technology for the Israeli market. And it's unfortunate, but I think they bypass Israel to get to the other markets. However, the Israeli market does have an added value, is that it's your backyard market. You can create really good relationships with users and get their feedback to a high level to a high degree. And I think that every single company, every single Israeli company, should have that connection to the Israeli market because the feedback is invaluable.
I absolutely agree. One of the first things that I've done when I came to Okan is really concentrate on the Israeli market. I think our market is a good market to test products on, to understand. People are very vocal. People want to share their experiences. The doctors are very, very good. We're going to do all of our clinical studies in Israel. We're going to do all of our marketing promotions in Israel. And this is exactly what we're doing today with one of our products. I agree, Leon. It's absolutely necessary to succeed in your own home country in order to be able to take what you learn here abroad as well.
Perfect. And now to our second part, we got a lot of questions about VCs, about fundraising. I guess many companies who attend this session are going through their fundraising round. But of course, Irit is our expert here. But before asking Irit, I want to ask Leon and Keren also to compliment. You know, how, because I understand that both of you are now in fundraising, how do you approach this process? You know, how do you go to VCs? How do you go to strategics?
I think the process has changed dramatically in the last year. I always say, for the first time in my life, I've raised money through video chat in the U.S. In the U.S. Who would have thought? You won't have to travel. You don't have to meet. And I think we need to get very, very good at it very, very soon. Our presentations need to look different. We need to get better at presenting through Zoom. I don't think the one-on-one meetings will take place in the very near future, and therefore we have to make an effort to change the way we pitch. We have to be a lot more alert to the people on the other side of the screen and what they're interested in or not, and be able to change the way we communicate our messages. We have to do a lot of due diligence on the partner in front of us before we meet with them, because there's no small talk in the corridor before we sit down to the table. We have to change the way we behave. Fundraising became a lot more fun. At least for me, I can tell you that last year we raised close to $5 million from dilutive and non-dilutive grants, but it was all on video chat and also from a VC in the United States. And it became fun because it's accessible and it's quick, and it saves the company a lot of money. But we need to get very, very good at the way we present. And I think the opportunities are great. The world has become very small. We talk now to VCs that are not only based here in Israel, but also based in Europe and in the US. And I think that from my experience, we just have to change the way we do things a bit.
Having said that, but there are, she's 100% right, because I actually spoke to a VC the other day on Zoom, and they said, we don't want to go back to the one-on-ones because we can get through so many more meetings without having this whole ceremony of going through one-on-ones. But there are cardinal rules to approach a VC. And there are, the VC, and Irit knows, but I come from a different angle from Irit. I come from the angle where I'm begging for money and Irit has the money. But there are certain things that you need in your pitch for a VC to even consider you. And that is the regulation pathway, your reimbursement pathway, understand the flow of the patient flow and the healthcare economics of the patient flow. These are the cardinal issues. I mean, you can come with an Excel sheet, with 5 pages of Excel sheet, and people who are so experienced like Irit, they look at the Excel sheet, that they take it with a grain of salt. But the most important thing is to radiate confidence when you're talking to a VC, because a VC is sitting there and within minutes they can make a decision. Am I going to give this guy $5 million? Is he going to waste it, or is he going to hit the milestones that he talked about? And those are the 3 major cardinal rules that I would say someone needs to come to a VC for. Eric, you want to correct me?
Yeah, no, I think both of you touched right points. First, when you come to VC, learn who is going to sit in front of you, because I'm a medical doctor, and sometimes people come to me, and I know this is in the presentation, and you have those 2 slides on, let's say, diabetes, but I mean, those 2 slides don't give me much information. I know much more than those 2 slides. So instead of now wasting my time and putting me starting to think about something else, just learn that I know diabetes and skip those 2 slides and get to the point. No, really, you really have, you need to catch my attention on the first 2 slides. Then I will listen. But if you lost me on the first 2 slides, I'm starting to do other things. And you said it right, Keren. It's a Zoom. I can do many other things while you speak on the Zoom. So you have to learn how to make sure that I'm going to listen to you. So find tricks on the presentation, maybe a short movie, maybe music during some of the points. The second point is what Leon said. Don't try to bullshit us. I mean, really, we are so sensitive to small things on the presentation, on the discussion, and all we want to do is actually to tell you to go, because then we don't have to do any work. So it's actually your job to convince us to stay and to do the second call. And in order to do it, be true, make sure that you answer right. You can always say, I don't know, I'll come back to you. Actually, I can tell you, it's a really good tip to say, I'll come back to you, because then you have a reason to send me another email to remind me about something that I learned 2 days ago. So keep it as a tip for the future. And be short, be concrete, and don't tell me if you are just starting a project, don't tell me about the Excel that you are going, how many units you are going to sell in 5 years, really. You don't know, I don't know, nobody knows. So
now you tell us, Irit, now?
You know how many hours we spent writing the 5-year plan? Those 5-year plans? It's ridiculous.
But would you say, Irit, there is a difference, between the pitch that someone is raising 2 million and someone is raising 10 million or 20 million?
Yeah, I think for sure there is always a difference between how much money you want to raise and what are your stage and where do you want to go. So all these things are really critical, because when I look on a company, I want to know that the money that the company raised at this specific point is going to be sufficient in order to allow the company to build up enough value to raise the next round or to do an exit. Mm-hmm. So I want to be convinced that this is the situation. Also, it is really important to focus on the stage of the company. So if you raise $2 million for a seed money for R&D company, it's a different pitch from a company like Keren or Leon is running now, because when they're running such a company, I want to know really the market. I want to understand that they understand the challenges in each market, how much money requires for each market. So this is a totally different pitch.
And I also want to add to Irit's point, and this is something I teach some of the entrepreneurs that I mentor, is to really know the company that you're talking to. Is it a group of angels? Is it a venture capital? Is it private equity money? The motivations for putting in money into your company is very, very different from each of these entities. And when you go and you pitch, for example, to a private equity firm, that they really deal with growth equity, right? They don't deal with venture capital. They don't take so much risk. They want to see you grow in terms of your marketing and sales. Then you need to know how to tailor your pitch to a private equity firm, and know that sometimes you may not fit, and not to get discouraged when they say no.
You even take it in one step further. If you are looking for seed money, don't go to a growth venture capital, because it's not gonna make sense.
Sometimes you have also strategic. So VCs, are I don't know, Keren, if it's in your world, but for Leon, I know for sure that.
Yeah. No, we're talking to strategic. I mean, strategic look at it slightly differently from a VC. Mm-hmm. They look at your value proposition, what your value proposition will bring to their company. And they look at you for the future. They don't look at you for where you are right now. They look at you for the future and how does it fit into, from a practical point of view, they look at the sales arm and they see if your technology can be sold by their current salespeople. They have 120 salespeople, and if they're not technically a client, or if they are in the world of pharmaceuticals, and you come with a technology, it's not going to work. But VCs don't need to look at your 5-year plan. They don't need to look at your sales. They're not interested in how much you're selling. They look at the value proposition that you bring to their portfolio and what you bring into their future, over the next couple of
So
years.
it's totally different mindset, you know. You
It's
need to
a
be-
slightly different mindset. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
it's a
one-
very different mindset. Yeah.
One more thing I want to add also is that as a CEO of a company, needing to be able to deliver what you pitch to a VC, you have to make sure that the person sitting on the other side is someone that can help you and that you
And
have
this
chemistry
is very
with.
true. This
And that
is-
you have chemistry with.
This is
And that can sit on your board and you can call them, him, her up and consult, but really consult. And I when coming into Ocon, I kind of fixed the board and I fixed the management and I fixed our products, but I fixed it with people that can, help me deliver what I need to deliver to the stakeholders and to the market and to my team, right? So there are many, many stakeholders that you need to deliver to. And I really think that if there is no chemistry, don't continue to push. Just, take a step back and try with someone else. Sometimes it will surprise you that the chemistry is there, and sometimes it will surprise you that it's not.
I think it's very important, and one of my colleagues said it to me, and now that you mention it, I think before we invest, we are actually questioning you, coming on your kind of enemy, because we say so many bad things and questions and more, and putting everything in order to get what you call good valuation, what we call reasonable valuation. But the moment we put our money, we become your partners. The moment we put our money, from now on, we are together in this journey. We have the same goal, make it successful business. And this is why when you select us or when we select you, we need to know that we can work together for the journey that is coming in the next weeks, months, years, and decades. Maybe not.
And actually, there was a question: how does a VC support a portfolio company?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends on the VC, and I'll speak about my VC because this is what I know. We are trying to support in all silos, I would say. Starting from the first point is when we invest, we usually bring more investors with us. So we would like to have a syndicate, we would like to have a round table of people that can think together and help the company. Once we are inside, we provide to the startup all our knowledge and experience. It starts from ideas, how to go to different people, how to approach different strategics. We are building communities between our portfolio companies. So one company can speak with the other. If one company has some experience on something, they can share it. And we can share it. We usually see more than one company a day, so we have a lot of information.
It's very valuable.
And at the end of the day, when we reach the point that a company is ready for an exit, we help the company introduce it to our ecosystem of strategics, ecosystem of investment bankers, again, in order to have high revenues to everyone.
Sounds good. So now I know we spoke about the go-to-market, we spoke about fundraising, but now to the difficult part, how do we learn from our failures? And Keren, I think you have a very interesting case study to share.
Which one?
That was once we had the preparation call, you told me that you had a market where you had a competitor who sucked you out of the market and you didn't know. You wanted to raise this question if you should go to this market, try to win it over, or should you move on?
So there are many different things that we can learn from, and I'm very fortunate that I've had a lot of learnings, even though I'm only 25. But a lot of things that you learn, and a lot of things that you make mistakes, I think that also Irit, as well as I, we tried to make sure to be able to be open and as much as possible also for younger entrepreneurs to learn from us. And I wish I had someone who could teach me some of the things that I've learned. But when you make a mistake, mistakes cost money and time, and those are ones that you make hopefully once. Hopefully once. And we've changed, for example, distributors in some of our markets. In some of the markets, we've gone to market shares of 50%. That means 1 in 2 women choose our product. You can imagine the bigger boys being very upset with that and trying to very hard win back their market share. So this, on one hand, is of course nice to know that we bug big boys, but on the other hand, you really have to choose your battles and know what to do with that. And so that's, from my experience, you really have to look at the 3 most crucial things you need to fix. If it's in your product, if it's in your team, even if it's in your board, and make sure that you do this very, very quickly in order to make sure that even if you do make a mistake, that mistake is a smaller part of the ecosystem of all the other things that you need to do within your company and organization.
And you, Leon, you have a good case study.
Yeah. No, I got quite a few case studies, but the one that we talk about right now is in mobile ODT. When I joined mobile ODT was developing artificial intelligence for a very huge, large market to actually replace the PEP. And I felt that is too
Ambitious. Too ambitious.
It's too ambitious for a small company in Tel Aviv to think that however accurate the AI is, they will be as disruptive as being able to displace PEP. And I thought that was a project that was going to take us nowhere. So that's one of the first things that actually stopped was that project, because I felt that we would get sucked into a vortex of going nowhere and spending tons and tons of money trying to displace a technology, whether it's good or not, which has been there since 1942, 1946, and almost every single woman who's had a cervical cancer screening has had a pap smear. So that was the first thing I actually cut, was that program.
And how do you take not only that, you had to restructure the whole company and
strategy is very, very important on products that exist, but also on future products. And I can tell you from my experience, we have one of our commercial product is a non-hormonal contraception. And I'm very into non-hormonal contraception my entire life. So in my gut, I felt this is the way the market is going to go. Women are going to want to move away from hormones, and this will be, a very big solution to have. And I completely, as a strategy, said, no, we're not going to have hormones on our delivery system because we're going to be a women's health company. Learning through what I've learned, women need choices, or customers need choices. And I remember that one of the doctors in my team said, you're not going to change the world, and you're not going to change the fact that doctors still prescribe hormones to women, and some women use them and love them. And so you have to have an array of products. And we're in a lucky position where we now are sitting and trying to choose our next in line on this platform technology. And the next in line is going to be a hormonal delivery, because we need to make sure that we represent all the needs of all of the customers, and not some of the customers some of the time.
True.
I think what we heard here is really that you as a CEO must be good listener and flexible in order to change your strategy, your structure, your organization. You have to listen carefully to what other people are saying, to the market, to your colleagues, and be able to change those things in order to be successful. So once failure is part of our life, so just listen, open eyes, and when you see a failure point, learn how, do it quickly and fix it.
Thanks, I completely agree. I think that the biggest challenge is to get a team of people around you that you trust, people that are smart, people that share your vision. I always say that as the CEO, I'm just the orchestrator. I look at my team in awe, the way they think and bring solutions to the table. And I think that that's really the strength of a CEO, to be an orchestrator of building a team that can really push forward your strategy or product and really to listen.
But to be the one who can make that decision. It is really, it really is not an easy thing to pull a project and to stop a project when everyone's hyped in. Even the board is bought. Sometimes the board even buys into this project, and they see the greater picture, but they're missing the smaller issues of how disruptive can a small company from Tel Aviv be on the world markets. So it's being able to make a decision and stand by a decision, and that's important as a CEO.
I think that this is a great point to summarize our discussion. It was so dynamic that we didn't even notice, but the hour has passed, and you got many thanks on the chat from the people, compliments
Thank you.
for your speak, so thanks a lot. I would like to invite our host, Rodrigo, to join us, just to this closure note.
One
Rodrigo.
second, I will be with you in a second. Just like,
I gave you some space.
Thank you.
So I want to thank, first of all of you for coming. I think it was amazing. You shared really inspiring stories, true insights out of your experience, which is worth gold. If anyone has questions, is it okay? I will ask
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely.
You are welcome to share, and I will be happy to forward it to our esteemed panel.
It was
Also-
great. It was great.
And I
Yeah, super nice. Bravo for you.
Thank you, Olga.
and
And Rodriguez.
And Rodrigo, without
Thank you for being Italian. Yeah.
nothing of that would have happened. I think you really put here a very professional studio. It's so amazing to see people in live and not
in Zoom.
not in Zoom.
True.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving us this ability, and keep innovating.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.